That's a good tea. It's bloody freezing here at Sydney at the moment. Hey guys, Phil from Trail Talk MTB here, and welcome to an update video. Haven't done one of these before and it's been 8 months, so I thought it's time to give you a bit of an update and actually learn a bit about me as a person. What you would have also noticed, we've got a new logo, new branding, new intro and all that kind of stuff, so I hope you guys enjoy that. Just kind of broadens our horizon and kind of modernizes the channel as well. So I'm not going to be like one of those YouTubers that makes you wait for the last minute of the video for what you really came for, so let's take a look at my new frame. So there's my new bike. If you've been following the comments really closely, you would have already known it's a Craftworks ENR V1.1. A lot of you won't know who Craftworks is, and they're a relatively small Australian brand and they're based out of Adelaide in South Australia. So looking at the linkage of the bike, you can see that it's slightly different to what most bikes have on the market. So I won't go into too much detail now. I'll talk about that more in my bike check as well as my review coming in the future. But essentially it uses a high pivot system, so you've got a rearward axle path, and the placement of the idler pulley on the I-Track suspension is a bit different to other high pivot bikes on the market. So without going too much into detail, the main benefits of a high pivot system is that you've got a rearward axle path, so when you're going down rock gardens and square edge hits and that kind of stuff like that, the rear wheel moves out of the way of these hits. So instead of a normal suspension where it's going up and down, it gets up and out of the way of those hits. So the main negative of a high pivot system is you've got a lot of chain growth. So as you've got that rearward axle path, it's pulling a chain which causes your pedals to raise up and kind of kick back when you're going over those hits. So you can negate this negative by using an idler pulley, so as you can see on my bike. Other benefits, you can have really high values of any squat, so the bike pedals really well, and you can also use significantly less dampening than you do on a normal bike, so the suspension works the way as it's intended. So about a month ago, I was actually lucky enough to test this bike out, so thanks Chris if you're watching the video. Even though the bike wasn't perfectly set up for me, I noticed the differences straight away. So going down those really square edge hits, you're just getting that boost of speed. It's not getting hung up and everything, it's just pushing you forward. And the faster you go, the more stable the bike is because your chain stays are growing. So you definitely get that stability and it feels really balanced at speed. And that's why I've got another announcement. I'm stoked to announce that I'm actually an ambassador for Craftworks now. And it couldn't come at a more perfect time. High pivots are so hot right now. And for good reason, they work so much better than more conventional suspension linkages. So I'm going to be posting some videos explaining high pivot suspension systems. Also the benefits of I-Track, so the high pivot system on the Craftworks. It's actually a little bit different than more conventional systems. As I said, the location of the idler pulley plays a big part in this, and that's actually patented. And again, the review of the bike and all that kind of stuff too. And it's also good for you guys too. If you did want to go to Craftworks, I've actually got a bit of a deal for you. So if you use the code TTMTB5, so I'll put in the description, you get a free Craftworks Established 96 jersey if you purchase the bike as well. And I also get a bit of a kickback from that, so you'd also be supporting the channel too. So enough of that quick plug, back to the update. So as you can see, we've also rebranded a little bit too. So I've learned a little bit more in design, marketing and all that kind of stuff like that. And I feel like this just cleans things up a little bit better. So we're just Trail Talk now, we've dropped the MTB. Doesn't mean we're stopping mountain bike stuff, it just means we can broaden the scope of things a little bit. So maybe 1 out of 10 videos will be a vlog of something else. So if I want to go down to the snow, film some skiing for you guys, I can include that in the channel now. It also makes logos a little bit easier, clothing and all that kind of stuff. Just looks a bit cleaner and it's just going to be better in the future. So the 3 main logos you're going to see now is bang, bang, and bang. But the main one you're just going to see is probably the circle for most of the things. Okay, so the last update before I tell you a bit about who I actually am as a person, I've actually started a Patreon. So I'm not going to sit here and mooch for your money or anything like that, it's not like that. If you want to support the channel a little bit extra, you can now do that with Patreon. So a bit about Patreon, it's a subscription service, so in my case you can pledge $2 or $10 a month, and for each of those price points you kind of get different rewards. For the $2 pledge per month, you get to come along for social rides, I'll be posting updates and that kind of stuff, exclusive stuff on my Patreon feed. I'll also be doing just Patreon exclusive live streams too. And for the $10 a month, you'll get everything that the $2 tier has, plus at 4 months of pledging, you'll get a shirt, and then at 12 months of pledging, you'll get a jersey. So these are both custom Trail Talk jerseys and shirts. And eventually I'll be selling these jerseys and shirts individually on a website too as well. So again, not trying to beg for your money or anything like that, just get a kind of crossroads where I need to go back to full-time work or continue doing part-time, and if we get your support to kind of grow the channel even further so I don't have to go back to full-time stuff, that would be great. So I'll put the link in the description below if you wanted to sign up. Okay, so a bit about me as a person, how I started YouTube and all that kind of stuff like that. I'll try not to get too deep, but I can't make any promises. So let me just preface all this. I'm not trying to make it a sub story or anything like that. I know a lot of people have it really hard out there, and I'm not trying to compare myself to anyone or anything like that. I'm just kind of going through my experience and how I started and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so around 24 months ago, I was just finishing up my master's degree in environmental science. So I'd been studying for 5 years and I was just rounding things up. So pretty much had my thesis fully written and I was about to submit it. So all the hard work was done. I just needed to press send. That was pretty much it. At this kind of point as well, I was kind of losing a bit of passion towards environmental science. Like, I love the science side of things, the field work and all that kind of stuff like that. I just hate writing. I prefer to be a bit more creative, a bit more outdoorsy, and I just didn't like the way that research was pushing me and just kind of sitting at a desk and writing all the time and spending maybe 1 or 2 weeks out in the field a year. But then I also got the bad news that my mum was diagnosed with motor neurone disease. So if anyone knows what motor neurone disease, it's probably one of the worst diagnoses that you could get. Also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. If you're in America, they tend to kind of use that word for it. And it turns out my mum was diagnosed with the worst form of motor neurone disease that you could possibly get. So if you've been up to date with the kind of research they've been doing, they've been making some real strides in terms of really slowing down the disease's progression. I know curing it, but there's a lot of research out there that they're really finding some really interesting stuff. So this was at a point when a lot of the medical trials were kind of actually happening and mum was kind of in line to do it. And things were kind of deteriorating really quickly. And it came to around, so October, I think she got diagnosed, and then it came around to February, and she was kind of lining up for the medical trial, and I think she failed one of the tests that she couldn't really do the trial anymore. And this was kind of like the last chance that we all had. And she had as well, and then definitely after that you could notice that things kind of deteriorated a lot quicker than they actually were. So fast forward to June of that year, so around about 4 months after that happened, my mum passed away. Even though I'm 25, so I'm pretty much an adult now, it was definitely really hard to deal with, and it is hard to deal with for anyone. I was really close with my mum, and it just really sucked. Yeah, there's no real way to explain it, and definitely coming to terms with losing someone you had so close in your life is really difficult. And I definitely, anyone that's out there that's going through something similar, it doesn't matter how close you were to the person, because death affects everyone really differently, and it's a universal problem. We all go through it, but for some reason we never talk about it, which is really frustrating. Everyone's going to be different, so people won't want to talk, but the only way that you can really get over your issues is talking about it, and I know it's really hard. And you definitely notice kind of after 6 to 8 weeks of someone passing away, you kind of lose that initial support, and then it just kind of goes into this point of nothingness where everyone kind of expects you to kind of just move on when you realistically, you're not really ready for that. So if you know anyone that's going through something similar, just have a chat to them. They probably won't want to talk about it, but really they do. So with all that kind of mostly sad stuff out of the way, fast forward about 2 months after that, I had a conference that I was presenting a lot of my research to in Tasmania. Perk of going down to Tasmania, I got to ride Derby and Medina, which was absolutely awesome, and that's kind of the main reason I was going down there. The kind of conference was just a secondary thing. I just really wanted to go for a ride. So I presented at the conference and I had a full-fledged panic attack on stage. Just everything between mum passing away and my anxiety and all that kind of stuff like that really caught up with me, and I just froze. It would have been hilarious if you had it on camera, but for me up there it was just absolutely terrible. And for like 10-15 seconds it just like everything just stood still. It was crazy, and that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin. Like, I wasn't enjoying it. This happened and I just couldn't do it anymore, and so that means I had to find something else to do. And mountain biking is something that's always there. Whenever you go for a ride, you're descending, everything just fades away. There's a point of nothingness. Seth Bike Hacks did a really good video in terms of mental health and mountain biking, and he explained it perfectly. It's like a form of meditation. You're just focusing on one thing, you're just descending, and you just get that point of everything goes away, and it's just perfect. So I'll put that video in the description. You've probably watched it, a way bigger channel than mine, but if you haven't watched it, definitely watch the video. It really explains it well. So with all my kind of social anxiety and that stuff out of the way, I wasn't really talking to anyone. I kind of shut most people out. Friends still had some that were really there and always chatting and that kind of stuff like that, and for those people I'm really thankful to. But I just feel like I had to start creating something, start doing something with a lot of my free time, and that's when I started making a YouTube channel, as well as all my written content, Instagram, all that kind of stuff like that. I started Trail Talk, and I've always thought I was a bit more of a creative person. I always enjoyed kind of arts at school. I just got turned off because I had a terrible art teacher, but I always enjoyed the creative side of things. And video, all that kind of stuff like that was something I always really wanted to learn, but I always like, oh, it's too hard. But over the past 5-6 months, I've learned so much in creating video, editing video, all that kind of stuff like that. And I'm really at a point now where I can take my videos kind of to the next level. And hopefully you guys are going to see that from the videos coming from now to the next ones and that kind of stuff. And just communicating with you guys in the comments, talking to the camera, it's just helped me so much with my social stuff. And I'm really thankful for that. So where does that leave Trail Talk now? So kind of 8 months in and kind of at a crossroads where if I start full-time work, only leave me on the weekends, and that's not really fair to doing all this video stuff to my girlfriend and all that kind of stuff like that I'm spending my weekends just purely doing that and not spending time with them. So right now, still doing part-time work, so 3 days a week at the bike shop, and I want to keep doing that just so I can keep making videos for you guys and making content. So I really appreciate your guys' support in pushing me to keep making videos and all that kind of stuff like that. And I made a decision myself, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm definitely still want to do part-time work, maybe pick up some design stuff along the way too, that I can just get some extra coin that way. So I'm really thankful to the original 700 or so subscribers that we're at now. It's been an awesome ride. So I didn't expect that the channel would grow this quickly. It doesn't seem quickly, but it's almost like 100 subs a month. And to me, that's really good. So I'm going to keep plugging away, keep doing reviews. I'm so stoked on the new bike and Craftwork coming on board. I'm going to absolutely love that bike. I'm going to take it riding everywhere over Australia, so you're going to have plenty of vlogs riding that bike too. Okay, so all that emotional stuff out of the way, I feel kind of obliged to actually tell you guys a bit about me because I'm just the person behind the camera and there's no real connection to the channel, so hopefully I've kind of got a bit of that now. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like. Also leave a comment. Any comments, any questions about anything, I'm more than happy to answer everything and have a conversation with you guys, even if it is something a bit more upsetting. And also subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers now, so tell your friends, all that kind of stuff like that. Really want to hit the 1,000 soon. Oh, and before I forget, a few updates on a few other things. Punts to Pro, I'm sorry I haven't been as active on that kind of stuff like that. Just had a few things with work, personal things, all that kind of stuff like that haven't been able to go to races. So I'm going to try and do a few more races at the end of the year, and we'll probably extend the season kind of into next year as well. And the new bike should be built up between the next 2 or 3 weeks. I just need to sell my old bike and a few other parts and stuff like that so I can fund the build. And as always, thanks for watching.